Welcome to the United State of Us podcast. My name is Erin Flood, and I'm happy to be with you today. And I'm alone. This is a solo podcast this week. And I'm going to be honest with you for two reasons. One, just with different scheduling, I had an interview that I was super excited about doing this week, scheduled for Friday's podcast, and I had sick kids. I had both of our sons home, one for 3 days, one for 2 days. And then I'm going to be real honest with you and tell you, I also had a colonoscopy yesterday. So it's been just a week in the Flood household, and we're all totally fine on the mend. Everybody's good. But unfortunately, when the kids were homesick, I had to cancel my interview. So it's going to happen, and you're going to love her. She is a holistic dietitian, and hopefully that will be up for next Friday. We're trying to reschedule. Her name is Hope, and I think you're really going to love what she has to talk about. So anyway, you just have me today. So I'm just going to talk about three things that I've been thinking a lot about, that I wanted to share today. And the first one is resolutions. You probably know by now, and I'm stuttering a little saying this because I'm kind of laughing at myself. Sorry, drinking my tea. But I love self-improvement. I'm kind of a self-improvement junkie. I love to think about what the next best version of me looks like. Not because I'm not content with where I am now, but I love growing. I love helping people grow. Most of you know that my original career was that of a teacher. I taught high school English. And so that's probably where a lot of that comes from, or why I wanted to even be a teacher to begin with, because I love helping people grow. I love the confidence that comes with knowing that growth is possible, and knowing the work that you did and the work that you put in to help you grow. And so I have a lot of that for myself as well. I think a lot about growth. And one of the ways that I think I've done the most growth is reflecting on who I am, and then deciding what needs to be resolved and what is working really well that hopefully I can continue to strengthen as a skill. And I think for much of my life, and I was lucky to be raised by a mom and dad. And did you all love my mom's podcast last week? I hope so, because I think she did such a good job. I'm proud of her. It was obviously like an emotional podcast for both of us. So I hope you enjoyed it. But anyway, I was raised by parents who are big goal setters, and who would sit our family down every year, and we would make our own little resolutions and goals and how we were going to achieve it. And my dad was in sales and read a ton of like all the greats, motivational books and sales books. And a lot of that is just about identifying where you are and getting really specific about where you want to be. And so I think that's always been part of me too. The one thing that's changed as an adult is that the language around resolutions, I think, has really changed just culturally, that we like to talk more about like, what is a vision board, or what are dreams for the next year, or what's a SMART goal that we can come up with, that where we can measure it, and all of those things, like what's going to get us on the path to actually accomplishing it. And this year I am doing my vision board, because I always do. I write it down, and thanks to my friend Jess, who you know because she's been on the podcast twice. She was really the one who pushed me to do it originally, specifically when I stopped working and started staying home, because I completely lost my way. I didn't know what my goals were for the first time in my life, because nobody else was setting them for me. And I I had gotten so swallowed up in raising kids and being married and having a career that I really stopped setting a lot of personal goals for myself, other than like, I'm embarrassed to say this out loud, other than like, it'd be great if I could, I don't know, weigh 3 pounds less, or if I could, it was always goals about taking something away from myself. Like, what do I need to detract from myself in order to be better? In this place in my life, what has changed is I'm finally in a spot where I want to know what I can add to be better. So if you're like, well, what would that look like? So instead of saying, like, I want to lose 5 pounds, because so many of our resolutions or our goals at the beginning of the year are about our personal health. My goals, like, what am I going to add? My goals this year, and if you saw on my Instagram, if you're not following me on Instagram, I'd love for you to follow, at the period United State of period us. Sorry, that's more complex than I wanted it to be, but it's what it is. But like, instead of saying I'm going to lose 5 pounds, which I don't, but my goal could be, I want to add more healthy eating to my daily routine for myself and my family. And what could that look like? So on Instagram, I made a reel showing these little vegetable containers that I put in these ball glass jars. And can I just tell you, they're a huge hit. If you didn't see it, you should go watch the reel. But basically, like, one of the things that I said this year that I want to do is to really concentrate on how I'm feeding my family. And when I got sick, well, it's almost 3 years now, which is like really crazy. It'll be 3 years in March. And I know I reference it a lot, and I've probably talked about it before, but to make a long story short, my appendix ruptured. I got a horrible infection. I was in the hospital for like 20 days, I think, total. Well, no, I'm lying. 20 days in Milwaukee, 9 days in Florida. It happened while we were on vacation. And excuse me, had to have another surgery after that. And I couldn't eat anything by mouth. And, I had a PICC line in feeding me. And then after that, I had like 6 months of super strict diet. Like, it was liquid only. And then I had to, only eat like a certain list of food after that, so that, because my body was just trying so hard to heal that it couldn't work to process a lot of other food. So anyway, long story short, I'm really on a tangent now. Long story short, I forgot how to eat. And I feel like I've spent like the last 2 years reminding myself like how to feed my family. Cause I'm not going to lie, there's some serious, like, even though it wasn't caused by food, the thought of anything getting stuck and causing me to have to go back to the hospital and get the tube put back in and leave my kids and husband and to be that sick again was like terrifying. There's definitely some PTSD there. But I didn't realize how much in my head I was about how I was not only nourishing myself, but how that impacted how I was feeding my family. And so, full circle here, I'm coming back around. So full circle, it's been my goal for the year to remind myself how to feed my family again. And so one of the things that I've said is like, how can I make sure that I have fruits and vegetables available at every single opportunity that the kids want to eat? And so I made these, I cut up vegetables that normally sit a lot of times in the bottom of the crisper drawer, and I put them in glass ball containers, which the kids feel like are kind of fancy, which is hilarious. And so when they're looking for a snack, they readily come to the kitchen and open the fridge door, and lo and behold, what do they see but a glass container full of peppers that are cut up, or carrots or celery, although I found out that that's a hit for me, not a hit for them, so I can make less of those. Or they love sugar snap peas, which are not in season right now. So, but I'll get some. Snow peas I like, they don't, so I'm learning, but cucumbers, we have little cucumber containers, which will disappear in a second. So those are I guess that's kind of a lame example, but I just want you to know, especially if you are on social media, that as people are talking so much about resolutions, there's two things that I typically see. And I wonder if you would agree. One is people are all in and excited to like pick their, yes, this is what I'm working on, or go you, or it's the other camp. It's people posting things like, don't feel so much pressure to resolve whatever, like you are good enough as you are. And I think all those things are true. But I would encourage you to, the teacher in me would encourage you to look at what you do well and see like, how can I make that strength of mine even stronger? And then some area, like, that you feel like you're lacking, or that when you think about it, like maybe you just wish was different or something, and figure out, instead of what you need to do to take that away from your life, what can you add? So another friend of mine, we were talking, and she's like, I really want to cut back on how much I associate alcohol with like fun social events. Well, saying like, I'm not going to have alcohol for whatever, that's a strategy. And if that works for you, that's great. But you could also say, like, I want to create more social events that are revolve around family, or revolve around exercise, or revolve around game night, or other things that typically, or that maybe you wouldn't feel so much association with needing to drink while you were doing it. And so I think it's just a way of looking inward to see where you can create opportunity, versus always thinking about where you need to take something away or subtract something from your life, from your personality, from yourself. Because I think that's just so much more empowering. It's so much more empowering to ask yourself, how can I create an opportunity? Where can I add value to my life? Versus, what do I have to take away from myself to be better? That's not very inspiring. So, okay. That's just topic number one. Topic number two is triggers. And I'm only going to talk about this for a minute, but it's going back to my appendix story. So, I'm bringing this up because I mentioned at the beginning, I had a colonoscopy yesterday. And the reason, no, I am not 50 or older when you're supposed to start having them, but I have had some ongoing health issues because of the damage that was done with the appendix and the infection. And I mean, to get really specific, I had a bowel obstruction. Okay. So like all of the scar tissue formed on the outside of my like colon and intestines, and it was like concrete on the outside. So nothing, not even air, actually air is what was stuck. Air, food, nothing can pass through, because your body knows that there's infection and knows that there's something bad going on. So it's so smart that it takes like, and if any medical person is listening to this, excuse my layman's explanation of this, but your body's so smart that it says, oh gosh, I need to protect that. So I'm going to take scar tissue and I'm just going to start sealing it off, walling it off. Well, it did, because I was, as everyone kept pointing out, but you're so healthy, right? So really healthy people make a lot of scar tissue. My body did. And so it made so much that it was like concrete and nothing could get in or out. And so it was, I mean, I'm just going to say it was misery. I had an NG tube in, if you know, that's like a tube in your, that's in your nose, goes down your throat into your belly, and it has suction on it. So your body's in your stomach's always producing something in your belly, bile. You know, there's always stuff being processed, even when you're not eating. And so it sucks everything out of your belly that goes in there because nothing can go down to get out. So it's awesome. Anyway, I did do a party trick or two for the kids when they could come up to my hospital room, and they let me have a bite of popsicle, swallow it, and then watch it get sucked out the tube. So that was super fun. Anyway, so I had a colonoscopy yesterday, and I was trying to figure out, for like the 2 weeks leading up to this, I've been kind of a basket case, and I didn't maybe realize how much mentally I had started to spin until like maybe 2 days ago, when I just started to feel like very anxious about other things. I started to feel really nervous about like my husband was away on a trip. I started to feel like I literally couldn't sleep 2 weeks ago before he left on the trip. And you should know, like, I'm pretty dang independent, as is he. I mean, we're both really independent people. So like, I can swing it when he goes away for work. Of course we miss him. Of course I can't wait for him to come home, but like, we got it. I mean, we're pretty chill. Like, he'll email me the place that he's going to be, and I'm like, yep, got it. I'm not usually hyper about it, but like I couldn't sleep nights before, worrying that like something was going to happen to him. Weird things where I'm like, Erin, what is wrong with you? Well, what I realized is that when I get close to having to have an experience that is in any way similar to not only my appendix issue, which was like, literally, we were on vacation in Florida and it came on overnight. I mean, I ate dinner and then I went to bed, and then during the night I was like violently ill, and I did that for like 24 hours and finally went to the emergency room, and like left during the night while the kids were sleeping to go, and then never came back. So not only that, but like 4 months before that, this is a total TMI. So if anyone's listening and they're like, Erin, I'm kind of done with this episode, I'm sorry. Like 4 months before that, I had excuse me, total hysterectomy. And because I have had endometriosis my whole life, and it was like causing so many issues and so much pain. And so I finally was like, okay, we're done having kids. I'm just going to do it and be done with it. Well, I came out of surgery. They thought I was totally fine. I was in recovery and I started to bleed out. And unfortunately, the nurse did not recognize it. And I literally laid there bleeding out into my belly until finally they took me upstairs to my family, because they didn't know what else to do with me in recovery. So this hour and 45 minutes later, I've been laying there bleeding internally. And I mean, I almost died. I'm not being dramatic. My family witnessed it. I was like, I looked at my sister and my husband and my mother, and my dad was there too. And my, other sister was there too, but I didn't see them at the time. But I looked at them and I told them, like, I'm slipping away. I can feel it. You have to save me. In not this reserved of a voice, of course. I was like literally dying. And half of the blood in my body had pooled into my abdomen. And I had to go back in for another surgery, had to have, they could never find, it had clotted by then. They could never find the bleed. But I had to have multiple blood transfusions. And I mean, it was not good. I was like starting to code. So I had those two things within 4 months. And I think if anybody has ever had an experience like that, I think there are two ways to handle it. One, I think you just are like, but I'm fine now and I move on. But like your body remembers those things. Your body remembers the panic. Your body remembers the, I mean, I hate using this word for it, but like your body remembers the trauma of what happened to you. And so I think you can like say you move on, but your body remembers. And then I think the other way you handle it is to be like afraid of everything. And I think I've gone through like both things and literally am working through some like PTSD just from like the trauma of those two experiences. And I think some of why it's so hard for me to, and I'm coming back to the story about the colonoscopy, why it's so hard for me, why I started to spin about going into the colonoscopy is because like that was the first time in my life that I really realized that like I cannot just grind it out and work through things. Like there are a million things for my rather control freak sometimes personality that it's really hard for me to work through the fact that I am not in control of all the things I want to be in control of. And those of you that know me know that this is no shock. But I like to see myself as the helper. I like to see myself as the doer and the fixer. I like to see myself as the person who's capable of working through whatever it is that's in front of me. That's how I like to see myself. Not like infallible, but just like capable and healthy, and I got it. And in all of those situations, both of those situations, I literally had to lay there at the mercy of other people. And, you know, the numbers of things that happened like physically that I had to recover from after both of those. Ooh, the sun just came out. That I had to recover from after both of those issues. I think physically, I was so focused on the physical recovery that I forgot that the mental recovery also takes, sorry if you're watching this, I'm moving over because the sun's now in my face. The mental recovery also takes so much time. And I was a bit triggered this week because I went back to the same hospital that I was at after the appendix, where they, thank God, St. Luke's in Milwaukee, like saved me. They were wonderful. But I had to go in alone because of COVID rules. And it's like, whatever, millions of people get this procedure done every day. It's really not a big deal. I now have diverticulosis. It's very exciting because of the damage that was done inside of the areas where they had to do surgery and whatever, just weak walls. But like I had to go back in alone. I knew I was going to be sedated. It's the like what had me triggered, what had me so spinning out for like 2 weeks before this. It's not the fear of whatever they were going to necessarily find in the test. It's the sedation and the being completely surrendering to others, completely surrendering to the fact that I am not in control of all I want to be in control of. And I guess this leads me to my last part. And if you've listened before, I don't know why. It's not like I'm afraid to talk about this. But it like always leads me back here. But the thing that I've learned the most about all of this, and that I realized really more than this, because I want to be done with this. I do not want to see myself as a sick person. I do not want to see myself as somebody who isn't capable of doing all the things that I aspire to do. I don't want to think about myself that way. And I guess in this situation, it's probably the worst it's been in a little while. I thought I was kind of done with this. And then when your body or your mind reminds you that you're not maybe done with it, I don't know, sometimes I think that's just God's reminder of why you need him. It makes me cry a little. I don't know why. So in back to like what I was saying about at the beginning, sometimes I think in life when we get so busy and there's so much in the world right now that we feel like we have to have a handle on, and places where like we have to step up and be bigger than the situation or bigger than the unknown or almost all knowing in some way. And it's, gosh, this is an unsettling time to be a parent, right? To know if you're doing any of the right things every single day for your kids with the amount of unknowns that there are. But I just think that that's why faith is so important to me, because I'm so glad I don't have to be bigger than God. I'm so glad that I don't have to know more about the plan for my life than he does. And I did not always feel that way. So, this last little trigger moment was like, Erin, he had you then. He's got you now. And so I guess I share that because if anyone else is struggling right now, and you know, even if you're not a person of faith, I hope you just know that there is something that's bigger than us, that wants better for us than we ever could imagine. And what a relief it is to know that the one thing that I can add in my life is just like thanking him. Thank you for this day. Thank you for the fact that I don't have to be all knowing about my life and that you've got that handled for me. Thank you for giving me a platform to talk about something that's important to me. Thank you for already knowing what's on the other side of this and knowing that the path to get me here was what I needed to do in order to grow into the next best version of myself. And so that's another thing I'm adding this year, is just talking to God in terms of what I'm so grateful for. I'm so grateful for what he is putting in motion to bring into my life that I don't even know I want or need. And so that's the latest lesson from that trigger. The third thing is, I guess I just hope that whatever you start this year out doing, you realize it's okay to do little things that are simply to bring you joy, that it doesn't always have to serve a purpose greater than you or a purpose outside of you, and that doing little things that bring you joy isn't selfish. It's actually selfless because it allows you to give more of that joy to others. I mean, I'm maybe it's exercise. Obviously it is for me. It's being outside in nature. It's stealing 20 minutes to read a book. It's making sure that I prepare my vegetables and put them in glass jars to look pretty in my fridge. It's purging a bunch of stuff that I feel bad that I haven't used in a while. Well, why? Like, give it to somebody who can use it. They're just little things that bring you joy. This is a lame one, but is anyone else watching Cheer? Because season 2 just came out and I'm here for it. I watched episode number 1 yesterday, and I'm pretty excited. It's walking on the treadmill and watching half an episode of Cheer when my kids just need a little downtime after school, and I just need a little mental downtime after the day, and not feeling bad that I'm not sitting on the couch watching whatever show they want to watch with them. So I kind of hate the term self-care because I feel like it's been so overused. And so I'm changing it to, what are my joy makers? What are the little things that I can do that bring me little bits of joy, that make me smile when I see it? I'm going to try to do more of those, not just for myself, but for other people too. Okay, so that's our chat today. That's all I've got for you. I just wanted to come on, and I guess thanks for listening, because today, as I talk to you, I often am able to just process through things that I'm working on for myself. And I know I talk about this a lot, either when I blog or a lot when I post on social media, but we really are doing a hard job as adults of finishing the job of raising ourselves. And so just like parenting our kids is trial and error, so is parenting ourselves. And just like we look at our kids when we ask them to grow through a situation, or coaching them through it, or give them advice about something difficult, like, we need to be willing to go into those same things ourselves, and to provide not only the same coaching or being willing to listen to outside voices, like we hope our kids are, certain ones sometimes, but like, we also need to give ourselves the same grace that we would give our kids, our spouse, our best friend, because it is really a hard job raising ourselves. But I think we're doing pretty well. And conversations like this, I hope, help. So 3 things: think about what you can add to your life instead of take away, but don't be afraid to dream yourself into the next best version of you. Number 2, triggers, being aware of them. So important. Even when you think you're done with something, sometimes it creeps back up because your body remembers. And if yours involves control, like mine does, or lack thereof, it's good to know that you aren't bigger than the forces around us conspiring for all good in our lives. And 3, I hope you find little bits of joy in your life right now. And just know that I'm grateful for you as an audience. I'm grateful if you're willing to listen. I'm super grateful if you're willing to share with your friends. It's obviously my intention to continue to grow our audience and to grow the community that we're building here. And I'm really super grateful. Also, look on social media, I'm coming out with some blogs and posts specifically about the podcast and the content that we've covered, just as reminders of past episodes and the great nuggets of wisdom and learnings that we've had from earlier episodes. I know I have. And as always, I'm grateful for you. So thanks for tuning in today. Love you all. Find me on Instagram or Facebook, or there's a link to email the show if you have any ideas about topics or content. And hopefully next week I will have Hope, a holistic dietitian or a holistic nutritionist, on to speak to you about just healthy living. And I'm pumped. So have a great rest of your week, and Happy New Year, everybody.